Welcome to Just Minded My Business Media, LLC, where you get information that you can use. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. But before we dive in, subscribe to Just Minded My Business on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Share Just Minded My Business with your family, friends, and colleagues. Engage with us by leaving a review or comment. Your support keeps this podcast going and growing. Visit our website at jmmbmediallc.com to learn how we can support you in getting more visibility on your products and services. So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use. Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media. We're happy that you joined us today, and I am so excited to bring to you Damon Burton, who over a decade ago beat a billion-dollar company by outranking their website on Google. I can't wait to hear about that. I know you can't either. From then, Damon realized he was onto something great and went on to build an international search engine marketing company that worked with Inc. 5000 and Shark Tank featured businesses alike. Having started his business right before the 2008 recession, Damon is familiar with navigating and growing a business during confusing times, including tripling revenue during the recent pandemic. Since founding his company, SEO National, in 2007, Damon has been featured in publications including Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes, BuzzFeed, and USA Weekly as he helps big and small clients make more in a month than they used to in a year. Wow. So we're going to definitely pick your brain.
Yeah, let's do it. I appreciate you having me. We just met and I already feel like we're best friends. You're so warm and welcoming.
Yes, indeed. So my first question is, how did you beat this multi-million dollar business without advertising? How do you do that?
So that one's a funny story. This one was one of the things that kind of inspired me to dig deeper in SEO a long time ago. My wife was watching The Bachelor and drugged me in for one of the season finales. If I remember right, it was 2006. And so ABC is a huge brand, multi-billion-dollar company. And my wife says they're doing the season finale, and what I had caught from clips in the past, a lot of times at the end of a show, they leave a cliffhanger and they say, here, come back in a couple months, and then in this case, see who the next bachelor is. But this time they said, come back after the commercial and we'll tell you who he is. So they abbreviated that time. So the marketer in me got thinking, it's obviously for a reason, but I wonder what that reason is. And so I started searching up this guy's name, and I knew how to use search engines. I'm not a diehard Bachelor fan, but I couldn't find hardly anything about him. So I got thinking, if I know how to navigate this and other people might not know as easily how to find him, well, why don't I create that solution? So I ended up making this unofficial fan site for this gentleman back then. And within just a couple of days, I threw all the SEO I knew at it. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about more about that as we chat. But in just a week or two, outranking a billion-dollar company, ABC, for their own show, The Bachelor.
Wow, that's amazing. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
it was fun. It really kind of helped me see the fun side of this, right? Like that was just kind of a little kind of goofy thing on the side, but I ended up making thousands and thousands of passive dollars on that site. And so then I was able to take that idea and go do it with some other hobby sites too, and really kind of planted a seed for me.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's talk about SEO. Let's make sure we define this for our audience. For those people who are not familiar, they probably heard SEO. I'm sure everybody has, but what is it?
Yeah, great question. So it stands for search engine optimization. The goal simply is to show up higher on search engines for words you can monetize, but without paying for ads. So you build up the credibility of your website. So Google favors to position you higher. And obviously, the sooner people see you, the more people click on it.
But how do you select a company?
Yeah. So why don't we answer two questions? So one is kind of how does it work? And then two is, like you said, how do you kind of vet these agencies. So there's a lot that goes into it, but you can really simplify it into three areas of fulfillment. So the first area is how good or bad is your website built? So does it load quickly? Is it mobile friendly? Does it have clear call to action? Really basic stuff, but too many people get caught up in the visuals and they want to make it the most amazing website ever, and then that actually usually does more harm than good because it slows it down and it's too overwhelming and the message isn't clear. So design is the first thing, the structure of it. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing is content. So you can only show up on search engines for what they can read. So do you clearly communicate your product and service? Do you communicate your value propositions and why you're better than the competition? And then there's all sorts of tangents on content. We could go from there, but that's really the simple part of it. And then kind of the last area is what I call external credibility. So do other websites mention your brand and link to your website? And each of those links and mentions kind of counts as a vote in the search engine popularity contest. So that's kind of the basics of it. Now, how do you vet these agencies to find somebody that can drive results? Is you can ask them some really basic questions. You don't need to know all of the technical stuff they're going to do, but they should be able to communicate to you in really simple terms. So what you're looking for is somebody that is transparent. That's probably the most important thing is transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does transparency mean? Well, you should ask them, what are they going to do in their fulfillment? And how often are they going to do those things? So do they fix your website structure? Do they make it load quicker? Do they do conversion rate optimization, right? So you could send all the traffic in the world, but will people buy the thing? Is it easy to buy it on your website? They'll probably do some sort of content, but how are they going to do content? What type of content? Is it all text? Is it blogs? Is it images? Is it videos? And how frequently? And nowadays with like AI, you really have to be careful on quality. Quality is way more important than quantity. So
Mm-hmm.
talk to them, do they write in-house? Do they farm it out? Do they use AI? Like, how are they going to understand your product and the intricacies of why you're better than everybody else? So they should build some sort of intimate part of the relationship where they really dive into why you offer your product, why you got into it, and who your ideal buyer is.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was well explained, Damon. Thank you very much because I'm in the market right now looking for another SEO. The first company, they did pretty good the first year, but I'm one of those people, communication is king for me.
Yeah,
When I want to talk to you, can we talk? You
right.
am I gonna like be on hold? That customer service thing it really matters to me, and they
Yeah.
didn't hold up to that end of the bargain. But anyway, I do see the value in SEO because when I first implemented it, I mean, they showed me where I was prior to implementation, and then I could see my searching going up on
Mhm.
in terms of Google. In terms of getting organic traffic, how does SEO support you there?
So that's the main goal is traffic without ads. So obviously you pay an agency, but generally it's a flat fee. So that's one of the advantages is it's not a varying fee and you don't know what's going up and down. And with paid ads, all forms of marketing have advantages and disadvantages. So
Mm-hmm.
with paid ads, the advantage is it's generally quicker, but the disadvantage is you don't own that data. You're basically renting that traffic. And then you're not contributing to the overall credibility of your site to build it up over time. So with organic, it's the pros and cons are largely the opposite. The biggest disadvantage is it takes time, right? There is truth to it takes several months, if not a year, to build up the structure and fix all the things on your, especially if you have an existing site with lots of content. The longer you've had it, the more probable it is that things have kind of got messy over the years. So
Mm-hmm.
you fix that, and that can easily take a month or two. And then, like we were talking a minute ago, is depending on what you're selling, who are you selling it to? So you have to go figure out what those people are asking search engines and how to get in front of them. And that's one of the nice things about organic versus, let's say, paid ads is with paid ads, you're largely stereotyping a buyer persona. What age group are they? Is it men or women? What types of pages do they follow? With organic, it's different. Like none of that matters. Instead, you're going, what pain points do they have? And then that doesn't matter if it's men or women or age. It's like, how do I get in front of those people? And what are the things they type in search engines that I can get in front of them while they're in the discovery process? So you qualify your leads and attract a better person just a different way.
Okay. So if people want to work with you, how do they do so?
The easiest way is just hit up damonburton.com. On there, you can find all my social media. I'm a pretty social person. You can say hello, send me a message. There's a contact form. You'll find all the things on damonburton.com.
Okay, now that's simple enough. Okay, let's talk a little bit about algorithms. That is a huge thing with all of this social media, Google, you name it. It changes a lot. So how do you keep ahead of that?
Great question. You'll be surprised by the answer is other people make things complicated unnecessarily. When I hear people talk about, I get a lot of people in the paid ad space that they'll throw rocks at SEO, and part of what they say is the algorithm changes all the time, and I think it's largely the opposite. Like you mentioned, a great example, social media, paid ads, like with all of those with paid ads in particular, every day you're looking at your budget. Every day you're looking at if your ad account got shut down. Every day you're looking at has the cost per click increased.
Mhm.
With SEO, it's the opposite. Like I'm not looking daily at any of that because none of that's applicable. Instead, I think why we've had so much success over the years is so I've had the agency for 17 years and I still have a dozen clients from year one that have been with me for 17 years. And I think part of that is we don't get distracted by the shiny objects. Instead, we go, okay, this works, and we stick to it. And so when we talk about these algorithms, and then earlier we talked about those three main areas of SEO, which were structure, content, and external
Mhm.
credibility,
Mhm.
it's always only been those three. And even if you think about newer stuff, a couple of years ago, voice search came on the scene and was a big thing. But with voice, really all it is us as users talking to search engines. But on the back end, it's still doing the same thing. On the back end, it's going, okay, which website can I access the fastest? So we talked about structure that
Mhm.
has the answer. We talked about content that I trust, that has that credibility. And then it just makes it audible. But it's really the same thing happening. And so when we talk about any sort of new instance of algorithms, even including AI, like AI is doing the same thing. It's going, who has good content that's valuable, that's unique from a website I trust that I can access quickly. So if
Mhm.
you just focus on those three core things and just kind of reverse engineer anything new that comes along into those, it's the same game.
Yes, and then you just explained that so simply, because a lot of times, people look at it abstract, like it's a lot of this, a lot of that. And if you just stick to those three things, it keeps it simple, keeps it stupid, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, it gives you the answer to everything. So, maybe one day something will change, but historically everything that has come in the way of SEO falls into one of those categories.
Right, exactly, exactly. So, and getting that, like you mentioned, getting that organic traffic is definitely, I think, better than paid because I've done a couple of paid with Facebook. And, it's like what age group, it's a lot of questions involved with, um, you know, setting that paid ad up,
Hmm.
but with SEO, you just have to have your keywords in place. Now, let's talk a little bit about keywords and their importance.
Yeah, so keywords, the concept of that has evolved. So depending on who you ask and how long they've been in the game, this question could mean significantly different things. So, years ago, keywords was part of the strategy as far as from a technical view. You would insert keywords in your website. So what that means is, which words are you targeting that you feel like you can monetize? Okay, just shove them everywhere in your website. So nowadays, that concept isn't applicable and that doesn't work. Google's gotten really good at going, okay, are people just trying to manipulate the content and then overly stuff it? Instead, Google looks at it and goes, okay, is it readable? Is it value added? Is it structured in a normal way, not an excessive way?
Mhm.
So if you look at it that way, that's not as applicable these days anymore. But what is still really important in keywords is you have to do your research before you start this SEO strategy
Mhm.
because we talked about how this takes time, right? So keywords are important for you to lock in at the beginning so you know what your path is long term. You want to do your due diligence and go, where can I make my money? And where is my buying audience? And then that way you focus on that and you have like a finish line. Because if you don't, what can happen is you end up getting 6 months into this. Then you start getting data. Maybe you get number one for something, but it's the wrong something and nobody's buying.
Mhm.
Then you got to go, oh crap, and then throw 6 months out the window and then start all over.
Wow. Wow. That is, I mean, you make this sound so painless. You really do. And I've never had it. I feel calm about even pursuing it just talking to you because you explain it very simply. It's not a lot of fluff,
Yeah.
and it's just basic stuff. Now, in your opinion, do people click more on ads or organic results? How's
Oh, it's organic. It's not even the same ball game, which is fascinating. This isn't like a, like one is better than the other. This is just a statistical fact. There's a company called Conductor. I think it was Conductor. They did a study a couple years ago that was awesome because it made it really simple to visualize this. And what they did is they said, okay, out of all the general types of traffic, right? You have organic search, you have organic social, you have paid search, you have paid social. So they kind of took those like top tier categories where the majority of traffic comes from. And then they broke it down to exactly your question, who has the bigger piece of the pie? And it wasn't even the same. When we're done recording, I'll show you the study and maybe you can put it with the episode somewhere. But it was something like 2%. If you're doing social and it's working well, do it. This isn't to say don't do these things. It's just fascinating how big of a gap in the available traffic there is. So out of how effective social media is, it was only 2% of the pie from social media to website. And then paid, Google's obviously a gazillion-dollar brand, and the majority of the revenue comes from paid ads. Paid ad traffic was only 6% of the pie. And organic was 64. And then there was, miscellaneous things in between, but it's not even close. So that's why it's cool because if you're doing paid ads and social and you got that working, keep doing that but just look at how much opportunity you're missing otherwise.
Wow, that's interesting. I definitely would like to have that report to do that comparison. Now, the Google website that they give you for free, what's your thoughts on that?
I personally don't use them. Well, are you talking about Google My Business, the local
Yeah,
profile?
yeah,
Okay,
yes.
okay, yeah. So the local profile. So I was heading down a different path. They used to give you like these sites that you could use, but it was on like something.google.com. That I wouldn't use because it's not yours. Google My Business, you could also argue is not yours, but it works really well for local. So depending on if you have a brick and mortar location and how far you service your audience,
Hmm.
those work really well. But keep in mind they work only in a general vicinity, and it's roughly 5 to 10 miles of whatever address you put in there. Now you can not put an address and you can put a service area instead. So you could say I service, this state. But what happens is the broader you go, because you could obviously say I service the United States or the whole world, the
Hmm.
broader you go, the less accurate or less granular it becomes. So Google says, well, it's less of an ideal candidate for the person that's searching. So the more specific you are, the more effective it can be. But generally, the more specific you are, the smaller of an audience you're reaching. So Google My Business and Maps are really great if you have a local address around a specific service area. And then after you knock out that, then it's all the other traditional stuff. So that works. That's like icing on the cake just for local audiences.
Yes, yes. So when people work with you, okay, what are some of the things you do when you meet a customer who's interested in SEO? What's that process look like?
Yeah, good question. So the way that we do it is the first part is I don't want to cash a check unless I know that we can drive a return. So the first thing we look at is what is the industry, what's the audience, what's the competition look like. Reputation matters more to me than just another client at this point. I've been fortunate enough to find some success, and so now it's like, okay, how do I work with people that I enjoy working with? So first, it's like a vetting of is there potential with SEO to begin with, and then assuming that The competition is penetrable. Is that the word? If you can beat the competition, right? And so we look at competition a couple different ways. For example, it's that there's quantity of results. So the listeners can do this right now. If you go to Google, and you have to do it on a desktop or a computer, this won't work on a mobile. But if you go to Google and search something that you offer or that you think that you could monetize if you showed up for that search result, it'll tell you how many competing results show up. It'll give you a number. It's
Right.
generally in the millions, if not the billions. Now, that's a number that says how many people are in your way. Not all of those are going to be direct competitors, and a lot of them will be indirect competitors, but it doesn't matter because they're in the positions that you want. So you want to look at how many people you're fighting against. And then the second thing you want to look at is the quality of those results too, because let's say maybe you sell these little unique widgets and there's not a lot of other people that sell these widgets, but Walmart and Amazon show up. Like those are big players, right? So you
Mhm.
have to look at the level of quality of the competition that you're up against too. So we'll look at those and then we'll look at, like we talked about, structure. So we look at the client site and we go, well, what are we working with? Can we work with it as is, or do we have to kind of salvage it? Or would it be more cost and time effective to throw it out the window and build it from the ground up? So we mostly look at what do we have to work with for the long term? And if we move the chess pieces appropriately, will it be effective?
Wow. That's awesome. Well, I am just, I mean, you dropped so many nuggets and everything is simple. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm liking about this conversation is very doable actions. So, Damon, again, how do people connect with you and get your services?
DamonBurton.com is the best place. On there, you can get my contact information. You can say hello to me on social media. And then I also have a best-selling book on SEO, and on there's a link to download a free copy.
Yeah, so talk about the book. I didn't know you were an author.
Yeah, thank you. So writing a book was largely because of what we talked about. I got sick of all the inaccurate information that was out there.
Mhm.
So it gave me an opportunity to point to it as a reference. So as I had leads that come in that maybe couldn't afford the budget or didn't have the patience for the amount of time it takes, I could say, well, if I can't help you directly, I can still help you indirectly. And here's a book. And if you take the time to read it, then it's a blueprint. So it was fun and also miserable. If you've ever written a book, it's a little bit of self-punishment. But it was something I'm really proud of. I didn't want to write a book just to say I wrote a book. So I really took my time on it. It took about 2 years. I'm glad I did it the way I did, because now that it's been out for, it's probably been out for about 2 years now as well. It's really it's really stayed as a solid representation of SEO even years later. So it was fun.
Oh, that's great. And what's the name of the book?
Outrank, Outrank.
Okay, and where can you get it?
It's a book, so it's everywhere. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Audible, you can get it at some Barnes& and Noble locations, and if not physical, brick and mortar, you can get it on their website online.
All righty now. Well, that's something people can pick up as well. Well, Damon, this has been an awesome, awesome, and more awesome. I've learned quite a bit from you, and I do know that our listeners will be learning as well. So we appreciate you taking time out of your day to share your knowledge with us, and looking forward to more collaborations.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you to our guests and you, our valued audience, for stopping by. We truly appreciate you. Many blessings to you and yours.